I'm absolutely tired of Lithuanians without any honesty. Absolutely no drop of honesty in their blood. We ordered some wood because this winter we need to actually heat our house, and we probably got about 4 to 6 meters cubed of stacked wood. So we ordered some wood. First of all, we called a couple of advertisers, and one of them seemed a bit rude, so my wife didn't think that it was a good idea to buy from them. So then she contacted another one. He seemed a little bit more polite and willing to engage in some sort of transaction. And so we arranged for 8 cubic meters of wood, stacked, cut. The first guy said that there is no dry wood in Lithuania. The second guy said that there is no dry wood in Lithuania. So we was a little bit like, what's going on? We did only contact 2 people. Maybe we should have contacted more. But what we did notice is on the Craigslist or eBay Lithuanian version, there's the same person is producing about 15 different adverts. So it's really difficult to figure out who is who. Anyway, so we went with the second guy. So 8 cubic meters. He said he's going to deliver the next day. So okay, so we stay here the next day, and then we wait and we call him at 3 p.m. and then he ends up turning up at about 6:30 p.m. And it's a younger bloke, so it's not the guy who's actually doing the business. He's just the delivery boy. Turns up with a truck, and we back him all the way to here because he's going to stack the wood here in the open, because if it's not dry, and we ordered birch actually takes about 4 to 6 months for it to dry. You could probably get away with lighter stacking, more airflow in between, and cut that down to 3 months or so. But that 3 months goes up until like December, and then as soon as December starts, the air is too moist, it won't dry. Anywho, so the truck comes and pulls up here. I go and get my measuring tape because I'm a little bit skeptical of business in Lithuania. And so he pours it out. So this here is what's left. This was just a big pile of wood. Now, it doesn't look like there's 8 cubic meters stack here. So what I do is I measure the back of the truck, and it goes 3 meters long, it's 1 meter high, and it's 2 meters wide. And that's 6 cubic meters. And so the 6 cubic meters on the floor. So tell my wife to ask the guy, saying, is this the only drop off? Because I don't know, give him the benefit of the doubt. Potentially they're going to drop off another class 2, or they can understand that I know that they're trying to scam us, and give them the opportunity to rectify the situation. And the guy says, this is 8 cubic meters. And so I show him the measurements, and he actually tries to say that the length is 3 meters 20, so he knows what's going on. And then after we showed him, put it into calculator, so we're not just making up numbers, show him 3 times 2 times 1, which is very simple. He ends up saying to my wife that we should just call the bus. So she calls the bus, and then she basically explains, we ordered 8, and the guy says, this is obviously translated, so speaking Lithuanian, if you don't want it, there's other people waiting more than a month for this wood. So he was very rude, and then straight away he hung up the phone. And so we called him. Next day he delivers 6 instead of what we agreed 8. Tried to charge us the full price. So then the younger guy who actually delivered it, he called the same guy, obviously the guy the boss picked up, and then the boss said, pick up all of the wood and put it back onto the truck. And then as a Christian, think I should just help, even though they're trying to scam, rip me off. So we end up throwing the wood back on with him, and in the process I kind of realized that 2 things is, one, I don't think all of that wood was birch. Now, I'm not 100% sure of this, but it does seem like some of that wood wasn't birch, and so I think that they mixed it. And obviously if you're going to mix it, you're going to mix it with something that's worth less than what you order. So maybe they mixed it with conifer or something like that, but I couldn't identify what it was. So we're throwing all of this on. Bear in mind this is 6 cubic meters, but this is not stacked. And that's the third kind of part of the scam here, is if you was to imagine you cut a tree and the tree is big enough so that you've got a whole dense solid wood of 1 meter cubed. Now if you was to chop that up, then obviously when you stack it again, you've got air gaps. And if you stack it beautifully, you can reduce the amount of air gaps and you can get a maximum amount of wood volume per cubic meter. However, if you just throw it onto a pile where it's just randomly stacked, two things happen. One is it doesn't get much airflow if you're trying to dry it, so generally people don't do that. But the second thing is that it will just be much bigger. So if you're buying a space, a volume of something, of wood, and it's not stacked properly, you tend to get 20% less than what if it was stacked properly. And so you go from 1 cubic meter of solid wood to stacked properly, you drop about 30%, then you drop about another 20% once you just pile it on. So we're throwing it on, and I thought to myself, you know, once we get to the end of this, because I didn't see him tip it, I didn't know whether it was stacked properly. And so obviously he's not going to go and stack it now in on our land, you know, and he's pretty pissed off with his boss as well. And so we're checking it on, and then I realised, you know, at the back of the truck he stacked it beautifully, so it looks like the whole thing is stacked, and then inside it's just full of randomly thrown, and it didn't go over 1 meter either, so it was already like that. So we got the scam of 6 instead of 8, the scam of what wood it is, and then also what is stacked. And then when he tipped it, really what you should have is just a pile of wood. Except bear in mind I've taken a lot of stones out of this to do some cementing of my long metal poles, but this is what came out of that. That's just left it. He took obviously the van and gone, but that's pissed me off a bit. There's loads of stones, and technically if we was to actually pay for that, we'd be buying this plus the mess, plus we helped him out. My 3-year-old was throwing logs on, my wife was throwing logs on, I was throwing logs on, and the guy just rude about it. Absolutely ridiculous. After the experience with the car, we kind of hoped that, you know, we wouldn't experience much more scamming, etc. Now I do know, I do understand and appreciate that, you know, not all Lithuanians are like this. The majority of Lithuanians are lovely, beautiful, kind people. And the situation that we're in, where we're kind of setting up our lives here in Lithuania, and we're doing it in a rural location. We're going through the industries that are most likely to have scams in: car sales, construction, wood, etc. And so we're kind of primed for experiencing this kind of scamming. However, this just seems like a lot. And then when I talk to people about it, when I speak to, for example, my mother-in-law, and then she contacts somebody else, so what's the best way to buy wood? And their answer, everybody's answer is always the same. You know, in the car business is don't trust mechanics, don't trust car salespeople. In the wood business is don't trust them. And they say that they don't buy wood that's pre-cut, and quite often that they would stack it on the back so that there's a gap in the middle of it. And so you wouldn't even know unless you restacked it, or until you restacked it, that you've got less wood than you paid for. So it's very interesting. I'm not sure where this comes from. I don't know whether it's a historical matter where people don't trust each other, people scam businesses, but honestly, if I could advise anybody who's got some sort of business in Lithuania or anywhere in the world, trust is the currency which you're exchanging, and the money comes second. If you can get trust from your customers, they will be willing to stay with you for the rest of their lives for the same repeated transaction. This is how Amazon is so successful. A lot of people around the world buy the majority of their things from Amazon, and the reason is because if they don't like whatever product that they purchased, it doesn't reach the expectation that they had when they purchased it, then they know that they can just send it back and get a refund. And that is worth so much of your business that if you just skip the idea of trust, you're just gonna, kind of like a psychopath, move in from one location to the next, trying to do over whoever it is. And so yeah, I think if you was a mechanic, you wanted to move to Lithuania and you was honest, you would be very successful. If you wanted to do some sort of wood business where you're selling wood, well, if you do it honestly, you could be very successful. There seems to be a pattern. Honesty and truth. Anyway, we're gonna have to buy, rather, probably from a larger company that does have some trust, rather than from small local suppliers, and it's going to be hyper expensive. So I guess that's what you got to pay. All right, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, follow, whatever it is on the side buttons. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does me a hell of a lot of good. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye bye.